is a media criticism.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the giant media criticism.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a damning media criticism because you and I both know that in this industry, the voices that are not there are Palestinians because they have been so thoroughly sort of submerged in myth and a negative mythology. They just sort of exist as this amorphous terrorist thing that we don't think about, we don't talk about. We used to when I was younger because they would sort of imply that they were going to blow up your plane. You know, and nobody knew why. Nobody knew. There's something they're angry about, but we don't know what it is. They're angry, we're not sure. Just like like indigenous Americans. They're just angry Indians, and we have no idea what their beef could be with the nubbly colonists who were just here just trying to get some corn. They just wanted some corn. Just wanted to move next door. How dare you oppose them moving in? All you had was a TV. You didn't even have a country. What are you talking about? We gave you schools.
Right. Honestly, I'm doing you a favor.
So I mean, because our media has been built on that narrative, it's very difficult to try to get off that narrative at work. It's to get off that narrative in this industry. Yeah. Which brings me to, and people will be mad at me if I don't bring it up, the interview.
Oh, what was it? Oh, you talking CBS?
Yes. And the thing that was so jarring about, and I don't know if you all saw it. You did, okay. In that moment, as you were saying, you've become a meme, right? So you're not on social media. So Ta-Nehisi's not on social media. Oh yeah, your face in it is a meme, officially a meme. So you made it. You made it. You were a meme. Because your face was like as it was happening, and so you were taking some criticism, but it was sort of shocking to me to hear the sort of range, the kind of criticism it was that essentially sort of likened what you wrote to sort of a terrorist, that would sort of be supportive of terrorism, which clearly it's not. It's a narrative, it's a book, it's an honest portrayal of what you saw as a journalist and as a writer. How were you processing that in that moment live on TV?
I mean, that's interesting because for weeks I didn't watch it, right?
Yeah.
And then although I heard all the noise, and then I went back and watched it, and I mean there were a couple things going on. I was before any of the questions got asked. Well, I guess let me back up. I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I knew what this was, and I did not expect like people to cheer for it. So it's not like I walked in there and expected, like the warmest. I expected a challenging interview. I was nervous and a little scared, as I often am, to be honest with you. I have two things going on in my heart all the time. It is an insistence that certain things must be done and must be said, and a deep, deep fear of saying them. And those things are always competing, in me. Yeah. One wins out. Almost always, but it doesn't mean that I'm not afraid. I'm always afraid. I'm always afraid. But I have to face people, and so that usually conquers my fear. So I was like nervous, and then when it got going, I felt less and less nervous, because one of the things that became clear. All of those sort of cliches that are being brought out, does Israel have a right to exist? What about the Palestinian suicide bombs? When you met people that live under the weight of that, it is enraging. Because it's not an abstract argument anymore. It's like you actually know people that are suffering under that. So probably for the first 2 minutes, I was nervous, and then I started to get really mad. And the anger kind of cleared my head. I am thankful for that interview. You know what I mean? I'm really thankful for that interview because it's like, I woke up that morning and I played Tupac's Hail Mary on the way there.
Come with me.
That's what I was singing that. Hail Mary. The whole thing I was singing. So I played that morning because I knew what it was. It's like, this is a fight. You can't expect to go in and say things to people and think that they're not going to do X, Y, and Z, And so even after I got done, I wasn't really mad at him. And my publicist was steamed. And he was pissed. And then I got back and everybody else was, like a lot of other people were pissed, right? I think y'all should be less pissed. Let me tell you why I think y'all should. I mean, there are things you should be pissed about, but I think you're pissed about the wrong things. I love, and I've heard from several people that they were really insulted about the part about take away the awards and all of that. You gotta understand who I am. Like, that don't mean shit to me. Like, that's not who I am. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take the awards. They're very nice. But that's not why we do this. That's not what, you write a book like that, like thinking that, And so, like, you can take the awards, you can take the cup, you can do whatever. But at the end of the day, you still had to deal with me. And what I have is I have my facts. I have my reporting. I have my reading. I have my research. So the awards are, like, irrelevant. You know what I mean? I am here to do everything I can to pull a group of people who have been pushed out of the frame back in. And really to help them pull themselves back in. That's why I'm more articulate way. Like, that's what I'm here to do. You know what I mean? And if I have to, deal with a few hostile interviews, it's okay. It's fine. I mean, the expectation that I would go in there and they would applaud for me is probably not good. I feel most bad about that. And I've said this before, for Gail and Nate, I felt bad for them. Gail, as I'm sure as you know, is one of the most prepared people in the world. She could have done that interview and it would not, I don't know, people think like it would have been some sort of softball. It wouldn't have been. You know what I mean? She would have been challenging too. I felt bad he did not make room for his fellow co-hosts. I felt like it probably looked bad that he did not make room for his fellow African-American co-hosts. But I don't, like we're here to fight. I oppose what they're doing. I oppose them. I oppose the fact that they don't have Palestinians in prominent positions. I'm against that. Like, we're not friends on that. I mean, we're good. You know what I mean? Not like my son might be mad. But we have a legit, serious disagreement. And I think the fact that they do not do that is a part of, and y'all are going to get tired of me saying this, why bombs can be dropped on children. I think those two things are related. So I'm very serious about that. And so, like, the idea that they would, so that we would smile and yuck it up. No. I mean, what happened was what was supposed to happen. It happened the way, it should happen. And I'm okay with that.
And I mean, we are in a media landscape where this topic is very fraught. It gets people very emotional. And there's almost, there's a fear that a lot of people feel, whether they are in that community or not, of even doing some of these stories in a robust way, because it doesn't feel like it's a welcome topic, because there's obviously so much sensitivity. The Holocaust was it still lives and sits in the hearts of Jewish people in a way that creates so much pain that it's just difficult to even approach anything about Israel. And so the complexities of, the parts of the pro-Palestinian movement that are very Jewish. Jewish Voices for Peace, they're all Jewish. They're out there protesting, and Jewish Americans are very liberal. And so that even gets sort of lost in the nuance. We just don't cover it in a complex way. Do you think that because Black Americans sit in this space that is so unique in the world, the middle part of your book that gets lost, I think, when a lot of people talk about the book, the part about going to Africa, for me, as a person who's daughter of an African, really stood out to me. Because it rang true to me about the way Africans view American Blacks, with a kind of reverence to say, you are the Black people who created the culture that reverberates all over the world and even back to Africa, right? Black American musical culture, style culture, cool culture, literally is a dominant force on earth. And to have come from being bred like cattle, which is the Caribbean slaves were just work till they die. And that's why Caribbean slaves tend to be darker. They don't, they're not as admixed because it was just work, die, get more, right? And then the slaves in South America were so blended in with indigenous people and Spaniards that they're just so blended that they lost the fact that they Black at all. They would be one drop rule Black here, but there they're like, hey, no. Right. They don't want you to touch that. But in Africa, there's sort of the thing where the family said to you, they talk about you that all blacks are light skinned, depending on even if you call you mixed, which is wild to me.
Wild to me.
I know.
But factually correct. Factually correct.
How to talk about where that piece, where that middle piece of the book, where it's not African Americans, it's not Israel and Palestinians, it's Africa. Where does that fit in the narrative?
I wish like more people, I get the sense that most people just read it.
They just skip to the Palestine.
The people interviewing me, a lot of them just skip to the back half and didn't read that, because what that is about is like, how do you imagine yourself once you have had an experience where somebody has exploited you over the course of centuries and then created a kind of curriculum of lies to justify that exploitation. You live under the weight of that. So how do you get out of that? How do you get out of that? And one of the ways that we have gotten out of it is we have constructed a kind of mythical Africa in our minds. And then you go to Africa and you find not mythical Africans, human beings, like real ones. And it's like, so where does that live? I mean, the thing I tell people all the time is like, I have an African name that no African has. None.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist on the continent at all. It exists here. It was invented here.
You should have heard my father go on about Kwanzaa. He was so mad about it. He was like, I don't know what y'all have made. You met up in one holiday and your son celebrated in Africa. What do you do? He was so angry about it. He was mad about it.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't like it.
I know. I get it. But you know what? It's actually brilliant.
Yeah.
It's actually brilliant because once what happens is, see, white people had in this, and what they do is because they have money and power, they make it look like it's science. It's not. It's myth too.
Yes, all of it.
Like they made it up too. You know what I mean? We just had the misfortune of having to make it up in the 20th century. But it's legit. It's legit. It's legit as long as you understand it's myth, and as long as beneath that is some sort of liberating impulse. And it's not an impulse to go and take things from other people. Because all myths are not equal. One of the things that, about that chapter is I always felt like it was incomplete, even when I was done. Because one of the things I was trying to figure out was, okay, we are separated, obviously, by centuries. African Americans, through the great crime, the genocide of the Middle Passage, and frankly, the industrial level of sexual assault that you just can't imagine slavery without.
Right.
Like it's core to what slavery was. Sexualized courtship. So we were created here, right, out of something, right, and out of the most tragic, awful stuff. And so then you go back to this place that you have roots in. So how do you relate to it? And I was maybe pleasantly surprised and maybe somewhat disturbed that the relation feels natural, right? Like it really does feel natural. And I don't mean it feels natural like we are exactly the same. But, when I leave Baltimore and go to, LA and meet black folks, we are not exactly the same. Or when I go to Jamaica, we are not exactly the same either. There's no group of people can withstand it. Irish Americans are not exactly the same as Irish folks, and there's no middle passage for them to deal with in that. But I do feel something, and I had the great opportunity of being on this podcast with Trevor Noah, and at that point it was I'm African American, I'm Black American. I got a South African cat, and it was a sister on there who I believe grew up in London but had roots in Nigeria, right? And I was telling her and I had a conversation there like I didn't have anywhere else, right? So I said, okay, so what is this? And what she said to me that I keep thinking about, she said it's loss. She said we all know what it means to have like this gigantic loss. There's a loss in colonialism. There's a loss in apartheid. And she said loss is a very kinetic force. That people form bonds off of loss all the time. That people pull things out of loss all the time. And that really, really helped me. It really helped me understand what I felt and why, Because when I came back, I had these emotions, and in many ways I couldn't put words to it. But it was there, man. It was like being with cousins. I mean, and like even like people get mad, like black folks sometimes get mad. You call them mixed. The very fact that she could say that to me was statement of a family tie.
Right.
You understand? Like that's something. Like that's an insulting thing you say to somebody you already feel tied to. You say to anybody else is rude.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
You
Like,
say it to your family.
Right. They had to have a level of familiarity to like make that, sort of comment. And so, it was beautiful. I need to go back because I think when I went there, I was, I had, the middle passages was laying so heavy on me.
Yeah.
And the loss of that.